So in the recent video on the SawSmith 2000, the introduction of this table saw by Shopsmith back in the 1990s, a couple folks commented on how the scale on this fence system, which by the way is excellent, this is an Excalibur fence system, but how the scale seemed to be loose. It's absolutely beyond loose, it's falling off. And it's a great fence system as long as everything is properly aligned and the scale is attached. So as I thought about, well, I got to replace that, the question also came up about, well, with that having a scale, why doesn't the Shopsmith Mark V have a scale, or Mark VII if you happen to have one of those? And the answer to that is it can, though most of us don't use it. So in this video, I'm going to replace this scale and weigh in on this scale. See what I did there? You know, I was just about to make a mark right here with a pencil so I could get my zero of my new tape lined up, and I thought, well, we should maybe check this with the fence in place. And when I did that, I realized that with that blade right there, which is a very thin kerf blade, we're actually beyond the 0 point as compared to the scale here. The blade that was on there was a standard 1/8" blade. So this does bring to mind the fact that this particular machine, as the blades get thicker or stack out on that arbor, it's going to change the readout here on the scale. So I'm going to go ahead and make the new scale about a 1/16 of an inch further to the left than this one. I can always zero it in between cuts with different blades, but I think that's where I'm going to start because I like running a thin kerf blade on this saw. All right, so just like that, I've got myself a new line. And then all of this needs to be cleaned off because there's a pretty serious residue underneath this from the old adhesive. In fact, look at that. The old adhesive is still there. That's got to come off. I'm going to use paint thinner for this. I'll clean up the mineral spirits with some lacquer thinner when I'm done because this does leave a little bit of a residue, which might cause a problem with my new double-sided tape. Oh, and thankfully, some of this is coming off. Oh, not all of it. All right, so this fast cap tape kit comes with a new scale, as well as my favorite double-sided tape for this type of application, which is their speed tape. And we're just going to adhere this, peel the backing off, and then we'll attach the scale. Now this tape they've got bound together with a zip tie. I imagine it's about to go flying across the room. And it's double-ended, double-sided. So we have a choice to make, and that is which direction do we want to apply this. So if I was going from the blade to the left, this would be the end I would use. But instead, I need to use the other side and the other end. Now here's what's interesting. I don't need all of this. And so I can actually cut this off and use the other half or the other portion to the left of my blade, which is what we'll do. But I got to get all the way through to the other end here. All right, I got about 48 inches of it extended out here. Just going to cut it with a pair of shop shears. That's more length than I need. So I'm going to start with that. And we'll set this aside. We'll use this on the left-hand side later. So this scale actually begins beyond 0. I could apply it and have the word fast cap on my saw if I wanted to, but I'm just going to go ahead and cut it just ahead of the 0 here. Sorry, fast cap. And then that's going to be adhered right here. Now, if you've ever used speed tape, you know that one of the challenges is getting this to pick off without rolling that adhesive off. I really ought to start over on the left-hand side because it's the less critical end, but it looks like we got it here. And now I'm going to line that 0 up with my pencil line. Right there. and lay this out. Again, not rocket surgery by any means. And then now we can just simply cut off the excess here on the end. All right, with our fence back on, let's slide back over to the blade. We are butting against the blade right now. And you can see how I'm off by that 1/16 of an inch I was counting on. Now we just need to zero this out by loosening that cap screw. It looks like things moved a bit more than I expected them to. Let's see, that's a 5/32 right here. And straighten that back out. And zero in the plastic scale. There we go. So that should now be measuring accurately with that blade. So I have plenty of the scale left to do the left side of the blade if I choose to do that. Tons of the double-sided tape, which is excellent. The best thing about this kit for me is it measures in both imperial, inches, fractions, and metric, which I do use in my shop. Now, regardless of which Shopsmith multi-tool you have, be it a 510, 520, 500, Mark 7, you name it, the way we've always made these measurements is by measuring to the fence, getting everything locked down close, and then making a final adjustment by moving the blade on the quill, which is pretty amazing. Once we get that to the setting that we want, we just lock the quill in place. Now, one of my earliest videos ever on this channel was talking about this tool right here, which was made by the Taylor Design Group, or the Incra people. This is the Incra gauge. And with this, I can set any length up to, I think, roughly 7 inches. And it'll lock dead nuts onto whatever dimension I'm shooting for. And then all I have to do is to slide my fence up close, and I'm measuring to the back face here normally, and then we'll lock the fence in place and make our final adjustment by moving the blade on the quill. I love this tool. It's wonderful. But the folks at Shopsmith thought of another idea, and that was to allow owners of this model of the Mark V, the Mark 7 and the Mark V model 520, to add a stainless steel scale that would allow us to have a direct measurement to the fence. Now, the problem is your blade has to be in exactly the same spot every time. What good does a scale do you? Well, this is where the magic comes in. What they would sell you in this kit, and I don't have this whole kit, just to be honest here, is they would sell you a peel and stick magnet that would mount on a slightly modified version of this fence rail. That would allow that magnet to be positioned right here. Then you could take this scale, and then once you have your blade in its final resting position, you would snap this scale on and adjust the scale to read 0 when the blade is against the fence. So again, that magnet is now stuck onto the fence rail, and you simply slide the scale to match the 0 position. So every time you would put a blade and arbor on here, you would potentially have to reset the scale. There was also a peel and stick plastic part that would mount to the bottom of the fence rail that brought that closer so you could get a direct measure. So now I have a couple questions for you. First off is, do you use this if you have it? And if you don't have it, is this something that you would like? Does Shopsmith still make this? I don't know the answer to that. And what I can tell you is you can't use it on every Shopsmith machine. You can use it on the fence rail of the 520 fence system, and it'll only work if you happen to have about a 1/2 inch wide flat shoulder on the top. And that was something that Shopsmith even sold as an upgrade. So I'm curious to know what you think. I personally never saw the need to own this. Why do I have it? I bought it so I could show it to you. But I don't have that extrusion. I'm perfectly comfortable using a tape measure for my wide rips and using that anchor gauge for anything 7 inches wide and smaller. I just love that tool, and it has never failed me. Now I've got the SawSmith 2000 with the new fast cap tape on it, so that degree of accuracy is going to be wonderful over here. But with the way that carriage and the table and the headstock land, there's just too much variability there for me to want to even mess with this. But again, I throw it to you. I look forward to your questions, comments, cheap shots, and we'll follow these up in a video in a couple days. In the meantime, make it a great day. But I'm curious to know, how about you? I'm curious to know what's your approach. Be sure to leave a comment down below, and if you have a question, comment, or cheap shot. I'm curious to know your approach. Let's do that all over.